Good evening. Welcome to the Sulk stream. I hope you guys are ready. I'm your host, the Incredible Sulk, and this is my thing. This is the thing that we're going to be doing, right? We're going to wait for this to drop, and then, here we go. And then we're just going to roll with it. I hope you guys are doing good tonight. I hope you guys are out there achieving your dreams, being good cult members, making me proud, right? Hitting the gym, right? I know you saw that pic, all right? And it's not about validation. It's not about validation whatsoever. I was just like, you know what? I'm going to show them. I'm going to show them I live by what I talk about. So, bam. Hit that fucking gym. Drink water. This is water, right? I know. It's in the Moscow Mule container, but I haven't had a drink in years. Is that true? I'm not sure if that's true, but it's been a long time. I'm fucking busy. I'm always fucking busy. Man. Got too much shit to do. Always. Anyways, guys, I hope you guys are having a great day. Kicking ass, taking names, making me proud, right? Making me proud. Tonight we're going to be doing a documentary on the urban legend Polybius. It's a video game that apparently the CIA or the Department of Defense put out in the 80s, and people said it hypnotized you in some way, and I would believe that. Probably some sort of extension of MK Ultra or something like that, where they wanted to do some sort of testing. They put it out, and the data they got from that probably spiraled into the modern video game area, right? The modern video games probably have elements that they learned from Polybius, if it is real, which I would believe. I would believe that's real. So, I hope you guys are happy. I hope you guys are doing good, right? Looks like we got a lot of people in. All right, that's good. I like to see it. I hope you guys are doing well, and excited about tonight, right? Because who knows what the night can hold, right? Anything can happen. Anything. Mostly anything. Most things can happen. So anyways, get ready. Get situated. If you're working, keep working. If you're driving, please stay safe. Was that it? No, we need more of that. There we go. Please stay safe. If you're working, I don't care what you do, right? OSHA usually has it handled, and if not, you get that sweet workers' comp, right? And then you can just stay home all day watching the Sulk stream and hang out. I need a producer, right? I do. Somebody to find me videos. So yeah, get comfy, get cozy, get a nice cup of cocoa, perhaps. Get a, somebody you like, settle down with them, teach them about the Sulk stream and the ways that we live, right? We're hard. Anyways, I'm so glad to see you. Thank you for coming. I'm the Incredible Sulk. This is the Sulk stream, and this is called Polybius.
There is a video game that doesn't exist. It's a myth.
Polybius.
An urban legend.
Enjoy.
A hoax.
Got Boston.
It's called Polybius. And you might have heard of it.
And we have Scott. Obedient. What's up, guys?
Let me take you back to 1981.
No Pants Wednesday.
Back when arcade games were at their peak. A multi-billion-dollar industry and a fever that had a grip on pop culture. Video arcades were a new social nexus and had sprung up everywhere.
Boston Buckaroo says, besides, you're just going to get gradient bricked up. I'm not going to get anybody bricked up, all right? No one's going to get bricked up. All right? There's a very clear wedding ring. I don't have it on now. I lost it in the ocean. But in that picture, there's a very clear wedding ring, so simmer down.
Dimly lit by neon light, adorned with garish carpet, they played host both to crowds of teenagers.
My wife was like, posted, and I was like, everyone's going to call me gay, and she's like, do it, it'll be funny. And I'm like, okay.
And cabinet after cabinet
I was right.
of the hottest games of the era. Space Invaders, Pac-Man, Donkey Kong, Galaga.
Galaga.
However, in an unnamed arcade in some sleepy suburb of Portland, there lurked something more obscure. A limited release of a game that would evaporate as silently as it appeared. The stories are vague. The cabinet is described as plain, and the gameplay? Weird-looking, abstract, fast action with puzzle elements.
So, I bet you anything, like, you know how, like, people scroll on their phone all day long? Like, I do it. Fucking, you do it too, right? Everybody does it. This is probably, like, the beginnings of trying to, like, hypnotize people with their phones. Because if you look at, like, a lot of content these days, especially, like, young people content, there's no plot behind it. There's no nothing behind it. It's just a series of shapes and loud noises and actions, right? Going on. There's really nothing behind it, and they're not doing any. It's got to be some sort of hypnosis, right? Brain rot is what the kids call it. The brain rot.
Sometimes it's described as being particularly addictive, despite the unassuming appearance. The only concrete details are the name, year of release, and the company behind it. Polybius, 1981, Zinnis Lotion.
Zinnis Lotion?
Really? It was just like any other arcade machine, except for the side effects. Reports of sickness, amnesia, night terrors.
Archie says, you got a job description for this producer gig? I don't right now. But I could probably think of one.
Behavioral changes.
There is a lot of
followed
stuff
those
I
who
need
played
done.
it.
There's like
It was no accident either, if you believe the rumors.
work and
Instead, a secret project.
finding videos is like a hard thing for me to do, right? I have to like it takes a long time for me to find a video that like I'm interested in and that I think people would be interested in, and then I have to like go through and like I watch them for the most part, not all of them, but yeah. It's a lot of work.
By government agency.
It's just me, right? On Daywave, they have like Pessy and Frozen and JJ, and I don't send shit in, right? I just go and make jokes. But they send in a lot of the videos, and of course, Royce finds videos, but this is all me.
Developed from military tech for the CIA
I do
or
have
some
a
other
whole
men in
cult doing
black.
my bidding, that's true.
The machines were observed, gameplay records were taken, and then, after a month or so,
We have to find virgins and stuff, and then find places to sacrifice those virgins, and then there's like, lambs involved.
they disappeared without
Weird.
notice, along with any shred of evidence. To this
know where
day,
the lamb
no
went.
authentic cabinets, boards, or dumped ROMs have surfaced. But there are some who claim to hold them. Quite the yarn. But could there be any merit to this myth, or even a basis in truth?
Scott1873 says, get a Discord going so we can send you all kinds of content. Yes, that was part of the plan too. I was planning on setting up a Discord for you guys so we could do stuff like that.
It's probably safe to assume that the story
It's on
has
the
been
list,
subject
man.
to
It's on the
quite some
list.
embellishment.
And
The accounts are full of conjecture,
I'll
weasel
get to it.
words, supposedly, according to, etc.
very busy.
One thing remains consistent across all the stories, and that's the name. Polybius. Why Polybius? It's not novel, it belongs to a Greek of some repute, a prominent historian born in Megalopolis, Arcadia.
The Mega
This could be
Arcade.
a deliberate
That's what
choice
it's
to
called.
muddy search queries about the game, or perhaps it was chosen on its own merits. Polybius covered the Romans' rise to power in detail, an important primary source and an early example of rigor in historiography. He also lends his name to a simple cipher, the Polybius square, in which letters are substituted by their coordinates on a grid.
I love it when the internet like solves mysteries. The internet it's really good at solving
Together,
mysteries.
this doesn't tell us much, although the meaning of the name is interesting. The poly prefix means many, and bios, life. Many lives, from Arcadia. Convenient. It could be a coincidence, but we can assume whoever named the game has at least some knowledge of either history or cryptography. Real or not, the name was chosen. Another word consistent
who's
to
old
them.
enough for these? Who's old enough for this? Is 1981. 81. So this was, I was born in 87. And like, I didn't even start gaming until I was, I don't know, NES? No, not NES. Super Nintendo, right? I had an NES, but it was like my brother's, and I bought it off of them when I was young. So really, my first real console was like N64. That would, I mean, and I was like 12, 13. I don't know, 12 probably. Man, that kicked ass. Ocarina of Time kicked ass. Mario 64 kicked ass. Mario Kart, badass.
The myth is the supposed
GoldenEye kicked ass.
developer or publisher,
Great game.
Zinnes Lotion. It's a German word, almost. A not quite grammatical combination of Sinne, meaning sense, and Lotion, meaning to erase.
That's cool. That's cool.
To erase senses, to become senseless. It seems to allude to the mythical side effects of Polybius, which implies a deliberate choice. It's almost certainly not
Scott
a real
says,
company,
wow, no Atari
as there are no
folks
other
in
games
there.
attributed to them,
When did Atari come out? Atari was like the 70s, wasn't it?
nor any trace of company records.
I don't know. The Atari.
So Polybius could be of German origin, but the incorrect grammar might also indicate the use of machine translation, something chosen by a non-native speaker to sound suitably obscure.
1972 was a... Wow! Dude, people have been gaming way longer than I thought. Atari was 1972. And they had like Pong and shit like that. That was way back in the day. I'm surprised how long computers have been around. Like a long time.
There isn't much visual evidence for the game, and most can be discounted as fake.
Obedience says this
But there
is
is-
lit major nerd shit. I approve. Yeah, well, I mean, thank you.
It's one
I'm
screenshot
glad
that
you
is
approve,
consistently
Obedient.
upheld as canon.
We gotta
It's
hang.
rather basic. A black background with a Polybius logo, copyright information and credits. And nothing else. However, compared to contemporary games from 1981, one thing stands out. The logo is unusually large and detailed. Back then, fancy graphics were confined to the printed marquees. Every kilobyte of the ROM was valuable, so most game titles were rendered in the standard font, or on a much smaller scale. This did change over the next few years, and by 1983, larger, more lavishly designed title screens were more common. The closest match in terms of style might be from Nintendo. Their games favour large, bold titles with similar lettering. Perhaps Polybius drew inspiration from Versus Pinball or Duck Hunt.
Hold on, I just wanted to look up what games the Atari had. Ooh, I like that. What is this one called? Pitfall. 1982. So half a decade before I was born. Damn. Wow, that's a retro looking package too. Anybody remember playing these games? Couch surfing's making chicken nuggets. Scott says, I love Pitfall. Was it hard? I remember this game. I played this game on my PC in like 1993. Yeah, this missile defense game. I like this game a lot. Sequest, Missile Command. Yeah, this is Missile Command right here. 1980! 80! Oh, I played this one too. You guys ever play the pinball one on Windows, the Space Cadet? That was pretty classic too. Arden Shore says I played a lot of Galaga and Dig Dug. Dig Dug. Donkey Kong. This is where they got Mario from. That's Mario right there. This is Mario. Damn, the Atari could actually... I thought the Atari could only do like Pong, which it was like 2 paddles and that was it, right? But it could do a lot more than that. Like it's got all these bits and colors and stuff like that. This was magic. This was magic to people in the 70s, right? Because they could control the colors on their TV and like it blew their minds. Kaboom. Oh shit, Obedience says my mother-in-law's in North Carolina struggling to eat. Dude, it's fucked up what they're doing to those people in North Carolina. There was a guy, I think his name was like Zed or something like that, and he was taking his own helicopter, filling it with his own gas, and then flying out rescuing people from their rooftops and stuff and places they were stuck. And he got arrested for that. He got... or at least told to stop. I reposted it. But what the fuck? And they won't send out any of their own helicopters, right? Because that money needs to go to Ukraine. Clearly, right? Why would we use it on the people in North Carolina? We caused that hurricane. That's fucked up. Threatened with arrest. It was. Threatened with arrest. Cut off in the flood shit. It washed out a bunch of roads and stuff. There's no way that was a natural storm. There's no fucking way that was a natural storm. There were 2 months. Sorry. Scott says should be Americans first, but Israel and Ukraine. Yeah, it's Israel, right? And Israel says Ukraine. Thank you. Yep. That's Duck Hunt. I remember playing Duck Hunt.
Of course, both of these date to 1984, which makes Polybius' 1981 claimed year of release look spurious. Perhaps it was just...
Arden Sheriff says, I heard about the helicopter thing. That sheriff was clearly on the take, which also makes me think the hurricane was on purpose. Yeah, I mean, that doesn't surprise me in the least bit. The sheriff's on the take? What? No way. The sheriff was probably elected, right? Specifically for this reason, too, right? They control shit like that. So he wouldn't even have to be on the take. He would just be put into position because one day they would need him for something like this.
Ahead of its time. Another detail from this screenshot is the font used for the smaller text. Those with a keen eye might recognize a similarity to those used by Williams games, such as Defender or Robotron. And it's definitely a close match, but they're not identical.
Arnshire says, I heard the helicopter guy checked. There were no flight restrictions. Then after the interaction with the cops, there was a flight restriction when 30 minutes later. Holy shit. Yeah, so if he's a pilot, he's going to check for flight restrictions before he even takes off. That's just what you do as a pilot. And so if they had no flight restrictions then, and then talks to the sheriff, and then there is flight restrictions, that's obviously, that looks very suspicious, right? Why would there be flight restrictions? Tell me why. They do flight restrictions for things like the Super Bowl, or if the president is coming to town, then they want a clear airspace for like Air Force One. there's very specific reasons for flight restrictions, and I don't see why they would have a flight restriction over a disaster zone like this, right? Especially since like news helicopters need to fly and stuff to like document shit. They don't usually. They had one over 9/11, right? But not typically, you know, disasters and stuff. I know why they had it over 9/11 because they planned 9/11.
The smallest 5-pixel high text does match Robotron, but the larger 7-pixel text does not.
She should get a gun.
There is one game that comes closer.
She should have a gun. Why doesn't she have a gun?
Nearly a perfect match. And while still a Williams title, it's the much less well-known Bubbles.
Bubbles.
It's still not a pixel-perfect fit, but it is closer than any other. The minor differences could be attributed to font hinting, JPEG artifaction, or perhaps a deliberate alteration. In any case, the text is distinctly Williams.
If it was deliberate, they would have changed it more.
Either Polybius is some lost prototype, or the image was fabricated by someone who drew influence from their games. The screenshot has been around for almost as long as the myth, and is likely the original source for the turquoise bubble-lettered logo. It doesn't exactly give us much to go on, and it certainly doesn't reveal what the gameplay might have been like. There are some that claim to reveal more of Polybius.
Background noise says because survivors will start asking questions. How come that guy can come save us, but you guys couldn't? Yeah, well, tons of people are already asking those questions, and they don't have any answers for them. When those kinds of questions arise, they're just completely ignored, and then they're not publicized or anything like that. We see them on the internet, right, on X and stuff, but they don't like address them in the public sphere, right? They just completely ignore them, just like they're completely ignoring all the people stranded in North Carolina. They don't care. They don't give a shit about you, right? This shit was planned from the get-go. They want you, they want you dead, right? So why would they go out of their way to rescue you?
Yes. Such as these vector-esque images distributed on the now-defunct PolybiusLives.com. First emerging around April in 2008, there's little supporting evidence for their veracity. All signs point to a fan-made creation. Besides, it doesn't make sense. If you had the ROMs and were able to take screenshots of a functioning game, why not show it in motion? To see the game running would be a revelation. There have been multiple people who claim to hold...
Okay, hold on. I'm going to look at this a little bit. Okay, so this is in North Carolina. That's really bad. That's not good. This was like Hurricane Ian for... Well... Hurricane Ian flooded us. It flooded our whole town, right? We were all under like a couple of feet of water. And that was a weird one too, because it cut across the state and it really fucked things up. But this is way up in North Carolina. And this is not typical. But this is bad. There goes somebody's house. Damn, that sucks. And you just see your house floating away like that. I hope they have flood insurance. Because normal house insurance just won't cover it, right? You need specific flood insurance, which is stupid, right? If you insure a house, it should be insured. It really doesn't matter what happens to it. But no, they're all like, no, that didn't cover floods. And God, I hate the insurance companies. I hate the insurance companies. Okay. So people are just stuck out there. They're just fucking stuck. And like, what are they supposed to do? A lot of people are just throwing on backpacks and being like, I'm walking my ass out of here. Which is crazy. Because Like, people get into the country that way, right? They throw on a backpack and they're all like, I'm an immigrant. I'm going to walk across the border. And then they get here and they're all like, well, keep walking. You got to keep fucking walking, right? You keep that backpack. And they won't let helicopters. They have helicopters, right? There's helicopters that are sitting on the ground. There's an army base. There's army bases in North Carolina. They're not letting the troops go and help the people. They're like, no, you stay where you are or you're going to be AWOL, right? So everyone's just sitting around because they can't get clearance. They can't get orders from the top, which is, I mean, take it as you want to take it, man. It's just, oh, that's the wrong one. Take it as you want to take it.
Hold the Polybius ROMs, and yet there's no sign of them anywhere. However, there is no shortage of gameplay footage out there. But these are all fan.
Background note says, I saw a video of caskets floating away. Pretty nuts. Yeah, they're like popping out of the ground, right? Because they're probably, I mean, they're hollow. And a lot of them are like airtight, right? Some of them are airtight. And so they float. And they pop out of the ground. They go down the thing. And then, I don't know, end up somewhere.
Made interpretations. Impressions of what Polybius may have been like.
And then you just don't know where your dead grandma is, right? Like, she was buried here, but then she popped out of the ground and then she's gone. Who knows where she is now? It's not like they tag those coffins. Do they tag those coffins? Why would they? Zombies? They're not like, you know, they don't put dog tags on the coffins or like air tags, right? Because why would you air tag a coffin? You don't think
one of the first emerged around April 2004. Distributed by a site called gooddealgames.com, the original source unknown. With a spooky icon, it's clearly supposed to evoke the myth. And those who are brave enough to run it are given a warning. The Polybius video game has been linked to impaired memory and psychological changes. Gameplay may cause epileptic seizures in susceptible individuals. Do you still want to continue?
Maybe that's a thing, right? Like, the seizure warning is part of it because Taylor Swift has these concerts and people leave these concerts and they don't remember the concert, right? They think they had a good time and stuff like that, but they can't like articulate what happened at the concert to them. And they're all like, well, I spent like, I don't know how much Taylor Swift concerts are. Let's say $10,000. I have no fucking idea. You spent this huge amount of money to go see this dumb bitch on stage for some stupid reason. And then you're like, I can't remember anything, but now I want to vote for Kamala.
Click OK,
something's up.
And you'll be met with the familiar title screen.
Right? And it's a lot of flashing lights and a lot of movement and stuff like that. And it kind of hypnotizes you. It has to be something like that.
Formatted for a 4:3 monitor, with the logo rapidly flashing.
Dirk Diggler says Taylor Swift is a witch, and yeah, I could see that. I could see her like sacrificing something or someone so she can do something. She's got a lot of money.
While a sound effect plays.
Every single one of those celebrities sacrificed something. There's a reason why, Magic Johnson's kid is a tranny. And there's a reason why Megan Fox's kids are trannies. These are offerings, right? These are offerings to whatever, ball perhaps, for fame, for a place in the organization, right? It takes a sacrifice. It takes an offering.
A sequence of rising tones. The flashing continues until you press a key. And then nothing. The game exits with a fatal error and a message box that reads, April Fools, send this urban legend to a friend.
Yeah, because they don't know. I mean, Polybius, they don't have the files for that, right? It's just a story. I mean, it might be true, right? But it's just a story that people like talked about. They didn't like copy anything. It was just a cabinet.
Interestingly enough, if you take the executable into a hex editor, you'll find the 2 megabyte file is not quite what it seems. The first 10 kilobytes consist of some data, but the rest? Empty space, acres of zeros, terminated with a few bytes of text. April Fools.
Obedient to Yah says, I chose Maine for a reason mindset now. The hurricane, earthquake, tornado, diverse, huge city BS other states have is unappealing. And Maine's great. And Maine's like 98% white. And I'm sure it's cold as shit. But you don't hear about Maine a lot, which is good, right? That means there's nothing going on there, which means it's safe. So you can do stuff and like not have to worry about Haitians or tornadoes or hurricanes and stuff. I like Florida though. Florida's
so
nice.
We can write that one off as an obvious joke. But there is another game that has become the dominant example when searching for Polybius gameplay. It came from a site at Zinnislotion.com, the supposed developers of the original. But the site explains that it's just a fan-made attempt to recreate what might have been. Launch the executable and you're presented with the obligatory warning screens. Do not play this game, etc. And ominous mentions of cognitive interfaces and higher functions. A familiar logo appears, but this is no mere prank. There's an actual game amidst all the spooky theatrics.
I would play it.
The gameplay is admittedly simple, giving you control of a ship that can move in, out, or rotate the playfield. Like the original legend insists, there's more to the game than simple shooting. Glowing shapes bearing numbers appear, and if these numbers match either digit appearing on the base, or are evenly divisible, then you'll reduce the base's number by that amount. Once the base reaches 0, you advance on to the next level, where the visuals get progressively trippier. Aside from the puzzle element, the gameplay resembles vector games like Tempest or Star Castle, although some aspects are inconsistent with vector graphics, such as the swirling backgrounds.
These games did seem like they were trying to hypnotize people, right? It's probably just a limitation of like the hardware they had back then, but it also could have been the style of gaming, right? Like that was what they thought was cool at the time. And today we have a different idea of what's cool, and it's much lamer, right? If you look at like Horizon Zero Dawn, and the hardware we have is great, and we can simulate really complex things, but we make fat chicks and stuff, and she's got like facial hair. That's not cool. That wouldn't be cool in the 70s. That'd be lame. That would be, I mean, it is lame, but in the 70s, people wouldn't care if you called it lame.
Entering the code 35, 34, 31, 54, 12, 24, 45, 43, the code that corresponds to Polybius
Florida's
on a
expensive.
Polybius square,
I mean, don't get me wrong.
grants access to the higher...
You know, Florida is expensive, right, Obedient? But it's like, I'm coming from California, and it's been years since I've lived in California, or even returned to California. But it was still, like, so expensive to do anything to, like, looking at houses in California was a joke. It was a fucking joke. You would pay an enormous amount of money to live in the ghetto. And it's like, how do all these other people live here? All these other ghetto people live here when it costs us so much money to live in the fucking ghetto. Florida's a lot better, but it's getting worse, man. I mean, the house prices are insane. And then these hurricanes come through and like wipe out a bunch of houses. And then it's like illegal to build new houses. So the prices just keep going up.
The game functions.
$500,000 for a beach house. Can you believe it?
There's a host of extra settings here.
$500K.
Some relating to auditory and...
$500K, I would have a beach house. I would have a fucking beach house, and I would be so happy, right? I would look out onto the water, and I'd have my coffee in the morning, and I'd be like, yeah, this is fucking awesome. No, there's no place on the Florida coast you can get, well, I don't know, maybe. I haven't searched the entire Florida coast, but it just seems unlikely.
Entrainment, subliminals, and color strobe, which disable some elements of the game. Others are more fanciful, however. REM imprinting, gameplay amnesia, operant paradigm triggers. Countless settings designed to inspire the right level of paranoia. cracking open the executable's resources reveals the game was made in Dark Basic, a game creation tool. Using a more specialized tool called Dark Explorer, we can reveal all of the game's assets, graphics, sound effects, etc. All of the subliminal aspects are laid bare. A variety of messages written in dark grey flashed briefly during gameplay.
Is Taylor Swift
Obey,
a witch, though?
consume, submit.
I want to look.
It's like something straight out of They Live. The sound effects are similar. Most are synthetic tones, but some feature voice recordings
Here we go.
and sounds of breathing. Presumably, these are played at a barely audible level.
Why don't you play? Try the game. Try the game. Try the game.
Altogether, a pretty neat package for those who want to build their own
Jimmy
Polybius
said it.
cabinet.
Okay, all right. We're gonna listen to her for a second. Just a second, just a little bit, right?
Is a former psychic. She thought she was communicating with the dead until she realized she was actually oppressed by demons. Today, we are going to talk about her testimony.
Obedience says Taylor is probably a witch, yes, at least a cultist.
She's also going to tell us all of
we're
the
all
surprising
cultists.
ways that we can see the New Age and the demonic manifesting themselves today. Some of the things that she says, especially towards the end of our conversation, will be deemed controversial, but that's why they are so vitally important for us to discuss. This episode is brought to you.
Okay.
You are not communicating with dead people. You are not communicating with any sort of good entity. So these demons were multiplying in my life with every reading.
Let's see. I just want to see what she
Desires
says.
of your heart. Where or when did you think your heart should make a decision for your life? You know, we tend to go there. We have these popular sayings. We were talking.
Nope, can't do it. Can't
But
do
who's
it.
behind it?
Can't listen to these women.
The credits hidden in the higher functions menu give us some insight. Igor Uspeni's PhD, and a mysterious number sequence.
Does
4,
anybody have a fucking
8,
shorter video?
15, 16,
Somebody send me
23, 42. The numbers should be familiar if you've ever
Obedience says
watched
to kill babies in orgy kind, like Megan Fox, right? Megan Fox got like railed by a bunch of dudes. In the apparently she talked about it at some point. It's a cult, right? Apparently Hollywood, it's called Hollywood because they used to use Hollywood to make wands for witches, and that's why they call it Hollywood. I heard that. Again, don't know if it's true.
Lost.
I don't.
And
but
it
I
turns
would
out the
believe it.
name is
I'd
equally
believe it.
cryptic. It's an anagram of rogue synapse. The Whois data for zenithlotion.com lists an email from the domain gorkaweb.com, which in turn links to roguesynapse.com. It's the site of an arcade enthusiast with a particular passion for recreating fictional arcade games, such as Space Paranoids seen in Tron, or the eponymous cabinet from The Last Starfighter.
Oh, cool.
It's a fantastic fan-made project, but as far as the Polybius myth is concerned,
I bet these are expensive, right? For like guys' game rooms and stuff. Those are so gay, right? Where you have so much money, you're like, I'm going to make a man cave and it's going to have like, you know, the game station over here and over there. It's going to have a bar and we're going to have like the beer on tap and stuff. And we're going to have a big TV and then we're going to have like couches here and stuff like that. And then we're never going to use it, right? There's going to be $1 million worth of memorabilia on the wall, but we're never going to go in here except for when there's fucking cameras so I can show my other dickbag friends how rich I am. Oh, cool. Cool. Awesome, dude. It's not like that memorabilia would be better served in somebody else's house who might be able to appreciate it a little bit better. No. You're going to have a whole room in your house that you don't go into. You don't even let your kids go into because it has to remain just so. I fucking hate those rooms.
it's just a
I think they're
tribute.
so stupid.
With the explosion of indie developers over the last decade, there have been quite a few other interpretations made, both for desktop and mobile. There was even a version made for the Atari 2600, with very limited distribution at the Retro Gaming Expo 2013. Few of these later examples make any claims of
Okay, so Polybius, what Polybius was probably was like the beginnings of trying to hack humans, right? Trying to program humans through video games. They can program humans through like news media and like songs and stuff like that. But now this is their foray into video games, which is a much richer media that you actually have to interact with, right? So you have to put your full focus into it. And so that's going to be stronger. That's probably exactly what it was. It was just a test.
Authenticity, and they generally follow a simple shoot-'em-up formula. One particularly recent game that bears the Polybius name is Jeff Minter's version for PSVR.
I mean, he says, LA is full of occult shit. Yeah. Yes. And occult people. And just weirdos, man. Just weirdos. Like, going down to LA, I used to do stand-up, right? And I would go down to LA, like, periodically and do, like, gigs. Or, like, open mics and shit. It sucked. It sucked, dude. The people there suck. And, like, you know, the vibe sucks. No one's cool. Just nobody is cool. And, like, everybody's super hyper political. And nobody has any chill. And everyone's trying to, like, get over on each other. It's not a cool place. I'm glad I don't live in California, but I'm extra glad I don't live in Los Angeles. Because it sucks. San Francisco's the same deal.
Minter is a veteran game dev, long noted for his unusual games and light synths. Since 1981, he's been responsible for a steady stream of psychedelic experiences. Polybius stays true to the Minter mold, and with the rapidly strobing colours and breakneck pace of gameplay, you can see why the game has pretty strong warnings before you start.
Oh, hey, strong warning, by the way, if you're epileptic or something like that. If you're epileptic in this day and age, I feel like you should have a special screen that stops you from having seizures, right? There should be a setting on your phone that says, please don't give me seizures. And then you press that, and then you don't get seizures. They have to have something like that.
Fascinating visuals and trance soundtrack mesh together to keep you in the zone. But its intentions are benevolent, with subliminal messages reminding players of the virtues of a nice cup of tea.
No, that's the activation phrase right there.
It's good, but it's Polybius in name only.
Would you like a nice cup of tea? And then they're all like, okay, I have to kill the president now.
I certainly think there's some truth to Polybius. Lots of random arcades have been used as test beds for legendary unreleased arcade games, such as Marble Madness 2 and Primal Rage 2. And several other unreleased games have also been spotted in the background of old news reports. So Polybius could have easily been one of those. What I don't buy is the whole governmental conspiracy behind it. I mean, why would the FBI want to test a machine that makes people nauseous, not only in public, but also on children? I mean, what possible benefit could they have from giving kids migraines? If they really wanted to make kids feel sick, all they needed to do was wait 10 years for Nintendo to invent the Virtual Boy.
So despite
I remember the Virtual Boy, right? Wasn't that the thing you put on and then you looked into it and it was like supposed to be 3D, but it was just garbage. I think I had one. And I played with it for a second and it like, this sucks.
Promises and these fan-made interpretations, nothing resembling a Polybius ROM has ever surfaced. A few fan-made versions and some screenshots of dubious origin are all that exist in the digital domain. But arcade machines are physical things. So what about any physical evidence?
Well, it's probably in a gigantic warehouse, right? If it's put out by the CIA, the FBI, Mossad, or whatever you want to say, they came and picked it up and they took it away and it's in a warehouse, right? I really want to go into one of those warehouses. Obviously, you can't go into one because, you know, you find like the Ark and like aliens and stuff and probably a million other things that aren't supposed to exist. Another place I would like to go is underneath the Vatican. Apparently, the catacombs underneath the Vatican are a wild place to be.
Of course, the original story tells of the machine's sudden disappearance. But what if one unit was forgotten? What if they weren't destroyed, but sequestered in some warehouse?
Obedient to Us says Jimmy Kimmel operates out of a Masonic temple. okay, we have a big Masonic temple here in New Smyrna, right? And the size of the town shouldn't warrant the size of the Masonic temple in this town. It's big, right? And it's a very glaring landmark that you see and you're like, that's too big. Why is that? But New Smyrna is on ley lines too, right? It's on ley lines, and ley lines are places where like temples and stuff are built. So also there might be a bunch of caverns underneath New Smyrna. And it's got a lot of history too, right? It might be the first place they settled in America besides St. Augustine, right? A lot of people say they settled in New Smyrna first before they settled in St. Augustine, but they gave it to St. Augustine for some reason. I forget why. Probably because they actually built a fort there. But there's very old buildings here. And yeah, again, it's on ley lines, and there's a huge Masonic temple here. I know a lot of people in town. Not one of them has ever talked about being a Mason, right? And I've known Masons. I've known people that go to the Masonic temple and they're like stonemasons and they're like into it and they like have, you know, the bumper sticker and stuff. But I never hear anything about that temple from the people that live here, right? And it's big. I don't know anybody who goes in there. I don't know anybody who has gone in there, right? It has no windows. It has no windows, and it's got a very locked door. You can tell the door is very locked, and it looks like it goes down, right? It looks like it goes into the earth, but it doesn't make sense, right? Because you shouldn't be able to do that. It's very strange. It's very strange. Oh.
What if someone found one? Well, there are some who claim they have. The videos all follow a familiar pattern. A shaky camera led by rumors of Arcade Hall to the reveal.
The Huguenots,
a dark
too,
cabinet.
Huh? A lot of people say Florida is the Garden of Eden, right? Well, this one guy said that. I don't know about a lot of people, but this one guy said that Florida is the Garden of Eden, and it's the actual fertile crescent because it's actually shaped like a crescent and it's fertile, right? It's not in the middle of a fucking desert and not shaped like a crescent at all. So, I could believe that. If you walk into Florida, if you just landed on the beaches of Florida and you're like in a wooden ship and then you walked in and then you opened up to like this beautiful freshwater spring and it's like the most magical thing you've ever seen in your life, you'd be like, this place is like otherworldly, right? Florida is like that. Florida is just, it's a magical place. It's a magical place that a bunch of people live on now. And it doesn't really take away from the magic. It's still beautiful. It's just a strange place. There's this guy down, or there was a man down south in Miami that apparently could move gigantic blocks of sandstone by himself in the middle of the night. And he built like this huge complex all by himself and nobody knew how he did it. Right? But people said he used like radio waves or something like that to build these huge monument all by himself. Just weird shit like that happens here.
A familiar name.
It's strange.
Some even feature gameplay. Normally it's just the Rogue Synapse version, but sometimes it's something original. And then, just as things are getting interesting, what was that? Jump scare. Roll credits. Invariably, it's arcade enthusiasts showing off their custom cabinet work and having a bit of fun in the process. And who can blame them? Polybius is an essential part of arcade myth.
No, I'm not saying that's gay, right? It's important to have like hobbies and like things you're interested in stuff. So if these guys want to like be into arcade cabinets, that's fine. I mean, okay, that's what you want to do. You want to be in retro arcade cabinets, by all means and stuff. Do your thing and talk to other dudes about it. If that's how you find your social, your social place, then good.
To have your own machine is quite the talking point. Only one Polybius cabinet is unaccounted for. A low-resolution black and white photo that appears on the killer list of video games entry for Polybius.
Wait, what? Obedience says not to mention Orange Grove Gremlins Florida has? What? Gremlins? What do you mean?
It's
Gremlins?
a Namco-style cabinet dating from about 1979 to 1981. You can see the same style in Galaxian, Galaga, or Pac-Man examples. The black panels and T-molding most strongly suggest
Anybody have that Pac-Man one in the dentist office?
Galaga cabinet with the decals removed.
Dentist office.
But the sides appear to be lighter, perhaps white, which means it could be the rarer Bosconian or a converted Bosconian cabinet. The controls don't match, however.
Tower.
Just a single button and stick.
Block Tower, isn't that?
And the
up in
coin
St.
box
Augustine?
isn't consistent with Namco machines of that era. It is period correct, definitely from the early 80s, but the dual steel plate style is more likely to be from a Data East or Nichibutsu machine.
Ichibutsu.
So it could be a custom build, repainted and assembled from spares, or even built from scratch. There's also the very real possibility.
Or Obedience says Bach Tower, the Orange Grove nearby, has a police report of a captured gremlin man in Florida. That could just be a meth head, though, right? Florida has all types of weird stuff because you're basically allowed to own any animal in Florida. And, I mean, we used to own slaves and stuff, but but yeah, now you can own mostly anything besides slaves. Still no slaves, but there's still slaves in Florida. Don't get me wrong. There's still sex slaves in Florida. Epstein was doing it for a long time. He wasn't the only guy, right? There's still sex slaves in Florida that come from Florida and then go out to those weirdo islands out in the Bahamas and the Greater Antilles and stuff like that. Yeah, it's still going on. And everybody's got a house in Florida, right? Every single rich person has a house in Florida. That's just, they must do something here, right? They must meet and have some sort of weird ritual. Or maybe they just like the sunshine. I don't know.
But it's simply a Photoshop. The Polybius marquee could have been applied directly from the screenshot.
Okay, Obedience says he was a foot tall and pissed they were stopping him from stealing oranges. It's from the 70s. I have to look this up.
The low resolution and lack of color make detecting a fake difficult, and I suspect it's deliberate.
Right now.
An original photo of a custom cabinet, perhaps, but it seems altered to fit the myth. It's not just cabinets. Sometimes someone will claim to have a circuit board from the fabled game, such as the one featured here.
I'm not finding anything.
If it were real, it might even be playable with the right connections, or the ROMs could be dumped and subsequently emulated. It would be a very valuable find if it were real.
No, I'm not seeing anything about it. Florida Orange Gremlin. And yeah. Do you have something on it?
This is definitely an arcade PCB, but it's not Polybius. It's a bootleg Miss Pac-Man with some minor Photoshop.
They got him to the station, but he escaped booking. He was 1 foot tall. They got him to the station, and then he escaped. A 1 foot tall orange gremlin, an orange thief, a tiny little orange thief that would run around and was mad that they stopped him from stealing oranges in Florida, which is like not even a crime, because there's literally oranges everywhere. They fall from the sky here. If you were on a ship and like you had scurvy real bad and then you like landed on Florida, you're probably like, oh, thank God they have all these oranges and shit. And then oranges are really good. This one guy I was listening to said that the orange was the fruit that Eve tasted, and then that was the fruit of knowledge. I've heard all kinds of shit
to obfuscate its origin.
Obedience on it, you guys.
It's not even
Obedience
enough
on
to
it.
fool Google's reverse image search, so we can confidently ignore this particular claim.
I want to see that. I want to see that
Manufacturing an
Florida
arcade game
guy.
is something which involves a lot of people. Engineers, programmers, artists. It's not a task undertaken solo. So, with multiple people involved, surely by now, someone would have come forward with information. Well, as it happens, there have been a few. Although whether they tell convincing stories is another matter.
Oh, good, Reddit. Let's
One
see what
testimony
Reddit
comes
has
from
to say.
an anonymous source who claims Polybius was associated with Sega's arcade division. He's known only as PRG-017.
I know I will not be believed, but still, I believe this must be told. I have information on a video game called Polybius. This game is real. I was a programmer in Sega's arcade division.
They play the myth straight, insisting that their secret project was designed to stimulate specific parts of the human brain, with testers suffering amnesia and loss of arcade game fandom.
Okay, so amnesia, just like at the Taylor Swift concert, right? And I mean, this probably all is like used today.
They then go on to explain that the Sega Genesis CD made use of Polybius code fragments in order to get the two processors syncing up. The account is poorly written and loose on real detail. It leans rather too heavily on the original myth, and the introduction of a link to Sega doesn't seem to make much sense. The technical details are vague, and the timeline doesn't quite match up. The Sega CD wasn't released until 1991, a decade after Polybius. Given the overly dramatic ending, unverified status, and complete lack of supporting evidence, PRG-017 is a fraud. Perhaps the most prominent claimant of responsibility is a man named Stephen Roach, who, in a series of posts in early 2006, claimed to be one of the original programmers of Polybius.
I think it's about time I lay this to rest. My name is Stephen Roach. Cine Solution was a company set up by myself and several other amateur programmers in 1978.
He says he's primarily based in the Czech Republic, where he set up a company called Zines Lotion with several mainly amateur programmers that worked on component parts for PCBs, with programming as a limited but very profitable sideline. Interesting how a band of several programmers saw programming as a sideline, but anyway, he goes on to detail the beginning of Polybius.
Okay.
We were approached around 1980 by a Southern American company that shall remain nameless for legal purposes, to develop an arcade game that centered around a new approach to video game graphics.
So, a Czech company that specialized in PCBs was approached by an unnamed Southern American company to develop an arcade game which would be tested in a limited North American market.
Okay. Sounds like the CIA or Mossad or whatever, right? All these governments work together. It's all one big government. So when I say like Mossad or the CIA or whatever Australia has, I'm talking about the same people, right? The same people in charge, and it all goes back to the banks eventually, right? So them. I'm just going to use the term them. It sounds like something them would do.
Truly a global conspiracy. He goes on to explain how the side effects started happening early in playtesting, and how the resultant cover-up might have inspired the stories of Men in Black. I'll be honest, the writing smacks of impostorship. It's all recounted in run-on sentences dressed in dramatic language that wouldn't be out of place in a poorly written ghost story, and several things just don't add up. He claims to have been born in Rhyl in Wales and moved to Czechoslovakia in 1965 at the age of 15 due to his parents' business interests. An interesting proposition, given the fact that the country was under communist control at the time.
You don't
He
move to
claims the
communist
Polybius
countries.
name was chosen by one of his colleagues who studied
Nobody,
Greek mythology.
nobody wants to move to communist countries, right? You move out of communism because you starve in communism, right?
But Polybius is a historical figure, not a mythological one. The majority of his ramblings are just expansions of the original myth, and what little novel
Obedient,
detail
bring
exists
it to me. Let
is
me
presented without
see
proof.
it. He's still looking.
I reached out to him via his email address, but received no reply. He did reply to an interview call from BitParade Co.uk, however, where he answered some
Dirk says, I always found it odd the Vatican had so much shit hidden away from their own army. Yeah, I really do wonder what's under there. And I'm just learning this now that the Vatican has an army.
questions about his role in making the game.
Do they still have an army?
Disappointingly,
I've
much
been
of
to
it
the Vatican, right? And they have those soldiers and stuff there. I didn't know they had an army. But maybe they do have tons of money, right? The Vatican has a shitload of money, right? It's a castle. It's a gigantic castle.
is copied verbatim from his original post. Perhaps he wanted to keep his story straight, or didn't want to expend too much creative effort in developing the story. He does go into more detail about the gameplay, however, describing the puzzle elements that would later influence Rogue Synapse's interpretation of the game. In Kat Despera's 2012 article, Reinvestigating Polybius, she found a possible link between Stephen Roach and the Czech Republic. Someone with that name was running a troubled teen facility in Brno.
Uh-oh.
However, this Stephen Roach was originally a policeman from Utah, whereas the one associated with Polybius claims to have been born in Wales.
The troubled teen industry is also like, I mean, they're bad, right? Because they have like this parents sign over, and you have to be a shit parent to send your kid to a troubled teen organization because they don't come back better, right? The parents sign away legal guardianship to these centers, right? So if the teen runs away, the cops just bring him right back to the center and they put him in like a concrete room and like torture him and stuff. I bet I know a lot of sexual abuse happens in places like that, and probably also where kids get kidnapped and taken off to the sex market, wherever that is.
So perhaps it's just
I'm
a
sure that's part
coincident
of it.
name. Everything about Stephen Roach reeked of a hoax. I had one lead left to follow. The original claims were made on a few different sites, but Roach was most active on the Retro Gamer forums, where there are a number of follower posts. The thread goes on for several pages. A few suspiciously new accounts are quite active. It seems someone might have been using sock puppets to fuel discussion. Later, a moderator confirms that several names are posting from the same IP, and Stephen Roach is amongst them.
I'm still trying to
Most
find
of these
this
accounts
brand.
were created specifically for the ruse, but the oldest had been used in good faith. I checked the post history. An introduction. I had the prankster's full name and an approximate location. A quick Google search turned up social media accounts that matched. I sent him a tweet and waited. I originally said that I received no reply from Stephen Roach via email, and this was true at the time of writing, and up until a few days after I sent this tweet. As if by magic, 2.5 months after sending the original email, he finally gets back to me. I was approaching the end of this project. I didn't have time for his games. I had to call his bluff. So I addressed him by his real name. I said, perhaps it's time to retire the Stephen Roach persona. It was a long shot, and it didn't work. He kept up the pretense. Even in the face of the evidence I had, he wasn't going to give it up. Shortly after, I received a reply on Twitter from my suspect. My original inquiry was polite, pretty straightforward, but the response was obtuse, hostile even.
It's Twitter. What do you expect? Nobody's nice on Twitter. Nobody's fucking nice on Twitter. You just get these little snippets, and you don't have enough space to actually be nice, so you're just going to end up being a bitch. Everybody's a bitch on Twitter.
I wasn't going to get a confession, but by now I was fairly sure I'd found the guy responsible. Let there be no doubt, Stephen Roach is a red herring, and his story entirely fabricated.
Most of what we know about Polybius comes second-hand, and this lack of primary evidence makes me suspicious of the whole thing. However, what we do have is primary evidence for real events that are a bit like some of the things that happened in the Polybius legend. And it's quite easy to see how this could have been embellished or misunderstood to create the Polybius story in these second-hand accounts as they're retold. History isn't necessarily what happened, it's what people say happened.
That's true.
So, there's a lot of evidence wrapped within the Polybius myth, but not much of it is convincing. The same stories crop up time and time again, sometimes with embellishment, sometimes with new theories, but never anything that links the game to its supposed origin in the arcades. Making sense of it all and establishing the truth is a difficult task, and I'm not the first to try. Perhaps the best way to establish Polybius' origin is to start in the present. Rather than chasing unverifiable rumours from nearly 40 years ago, instead we can trace the evidence that exists today back to its source. This trail might not lead all the way back to 1981, but wherever it ends might provide insight as to how this story began.
That's what you're going to go down
as a starting point, we can look to Wikipedia.
That's what you're to do.
Its article history is transparent, and the site has been around for a while. On February the 25th, 2005, the Polybius video game page was created. But this isn't the first mention of the game on Wikipedia. Going back...
I'm sorry, is Rumble just not working? Is Rumble just not working, and is that why my chat is dead? Because I was like, no.
To November the 30th, 2004, the main Polybius article, the one about the historian, was amended with a section titled The Arcade Game/Hoax. Going back further, there was a short-lived edit on the 29th of February the same year that read, Polybius is also the name of a possibly fictitious video game in contemporary folklore. Related to Atari's Tempest, it legendarily led to mental illness in players.
There's a lot of mental illness these days, and a lot of people play video games. Is there a connection to that? Maybe. Perhaps. It could be like a bunch of different things, all like they could give you a vaccine and that messes with your mind to a certain point and then feed you a bunch of like furry propaganda and then you're a furry, right? So it might not just be a single pronged attack. It might be multiple prongs. And it might not just be two, it might be like 10 different things. And then at the end of that, they just get a certain population of people out of it that are like easily broken. And then with that population of people, they're basically Manchurian candidates and get them to do whatever they want, right? Assassinate whoever they want, become trannies or whatever have you. That's very possible.
The earliest mention I could find. But what exactly prompted its Wikipedia inclusion early in 2004? The internet was young and going viral, an as yet unknown concept. But in August, Polybius was featured in Slashdot, which was a pretty big deal back in 2003, and it mentions an inclusion in a recent issue of GamePro. At the time, GamePro was the world's largest independent multi-platform gaming magazine, and claimed to be read by over 3 million gamers a month. In issue 180, cover date September 2003, although published some weeks earlier, there was an article called Secrets and Lies. The article featured 6 gaming myths, with each assigned a verdict.
PS1.
True, false, or inconclusive. Polybius was number 6.
Okay, so what is this guy's name right here? Saddam Hussein with a PS2. I bet you he had a PS2.
The article expressed doubts over the game's veracity, citing a lack of evidence and the relative ease of fabrication, but it ultimately awards an inconclusive. It was this GamePro article that played an important role in propagating the Polybius myth, exposing the game to a widespread audience that might not have had access to the internet. It's not the origin of the story, but a key catalyst that transformed the game from obscure rumour to a widespread legend.
Yeah, I think GamePro was probably a primary source for gamers to find out about Polybius. I think that writing about it in a national magazine certainly brought it to attention. And then, of course, after it appeared in GamePro, a lot of people then spread the legend and told their friends or asked other people, have you known anything about it? And probably added a lot of their own details along the way, because that's how urban legends work, right?
Polybius's activity pre-GamePro was much more subdued. But even in early 2003, the game was still well known to arcade enthusiasts. It turned up on Snopes' forums in July, and had mention in a hoax roundup sometime shortly afterwards.
It might just be nothing, right? It could just be like a complete, like a legend, right? That some guy just made up and then spread it around, and it just caught fire, and the guy who started it is dead and has been dead for a long time, so he can't come forward and be like, oh no, I just made that up. That's possible. Is that what happened? I don't know if that's what happened.
This one is just a gag someone invented several years ago, which has now become enshrined on the web. Sometime shortly before February the 15th, 2003, an article on Polybius appeared on GoodDealGames.com. A familiar screenshot appears, and at some point there was also a link on the site to the April Fool's version of the Polybius executable. Most interestingly, at the bottom of the article there is a small banner with special thanks to a site called coinop.org. Coinop.org is a resource for collectors and enthusiasts of arcade games. It features a fairly comprehensive database of games, along with a knowledge base populated with repair and maintenance documents. The site is a common factor in many of these early articles. It seems they've had age on Polybius longer than anybody else. Their description of the game is quite familiar. It seems most later articles have been based on this one. The screenshot appears here too. At the bottom of the page is a creation date.
Obedience
the 3rd of
got
August,
it.
1998. Our earliest yet.
You had me, I was like, what? 1955? 1955, are you going to send me a link? Hey, Forrest Money.
But is it verifiable? The URI for this
we're listening to Polybius stuff, but I want to find out about this gremlin. I want to see about this gremlin.
Page has changed several times over its lifetime, so tracking down the first date of appearance is tricky. But with enough digging,
the report is on display at the Bok Tower Museum, so you can't find a video or anything about it.
And copious use of the Wayback Machine, we can attempt to discern an origin. The current page's history only goes back to February 2014. At this point, URI rewriting rules made things more human readable. The page prior can be tracked all the way back to 2003. Before this, the site used lengthy GUIDs, with a minor change in 2002.
Obedience says, the gnomes of Bok Tower in 1955, a 1-foot-tall naked man was captured near Lake Wells after stealing oranges from a farmer's tree. How is there not... I can't find the original video of the guy touring. What? How have I not heard of this? And also, how can we not find a video about it? Do we check Rumble?
This maybe? URI is the oldest I could find on the coinup.org domain, which takes us all the way back to June the 21st, 2000.
Because I want to find out about this stupid gremlin.
The entire site moved domain around this time. While it originally started on coinup.org, at some point during 1999, it was incorporated into click2.com. First as a subdomain, then later as a subdirectory. It's here where we can track the Polybius page as far back as possible. A capture exists from March the 3rd, 2000. Interestingly, the creation date of 1998 is missing, as is the screenshot. However, there is a last modified date instead, given as the 6th of February 2000, along with a note. New edition, anyone heard of this game? This seems to imply that the 6th of February is the date the page was added. I mean, it says new edition. So why does the page today insist that
honestly, Obedient, I can't find shit about it. And unless you're making it up completely, I don't know why I wouldn't be able to find anything about it. That's so weird.
It was created
here we go.
In 1998.
He gave me a link.
When did the date created field first appear? A capture from April 29th, 2003 lacks the page.
All right. Okay, let's bring that up. Spider monster dressed in black suit, skunk apes. Can't find a video about it, huh? This is all you could find about. Well, that's a cult. That's a cult mission now. If you can find anything about the Florida orange gremlin caught in 1955, please send it to me.
Created date. The next capture has it. This means it was added between these two dates. The date might have been recorded.
He said, Obedience says, who is some Karen, but she read a book of someone else who's been there. So you'd have to go to see. Okay. It's a book written by some Karen, read by some Karen. So it's not even like firsthand. Damn. So it might be
this,
nothing.
But not displayed. But another possibility is that the
But
date
I'm
created
intrigued.
field
I am
was made
intrigued.
later on and populated with a default value. I suspect the latter case is true. Principally because almost all the other game pages share the same creation date, down to the 4 a.m. time. It is possible that Polybius was present in the database back then, but there's absolutely no evidence for it.
The display in the Bok Tower is
What we do have is a verified capture from...
Okay, so you'd have to go to Bok Tower to actually look at the display. Is there any, or the document? Is there a picture of it?
Early 2000, with a date of February the 6th and a claim of a new edition. I had nothing earlier in my timeline. This could be our origin point. Day 0, the day the myth started. So how can we prove that this was the starting point? Or, more accurately, how can we disprove it? We're nowhere...
Did anything before the year 2000 happen? Was the year 2000 the beginning date? I know a lot of people remember the before 2000. I remember before 2000. But maybe it was like the Matrix, right? Where everything just started in the year 2000 and all our memories were uploaded from before that. So, we kind of had this like thing where we started at the year 2000 because that's when shit really started to suck. The year 2000, and then it was just like, oh, well, there's 2001, and then those towers fell, and then there's like the financial collapse, and then it just kind of kept going until here we are. Maybe it's had something to do with the Hadron Collider, where it just like ripped our reality apart at that specific date, and it just spread out in a million directions, and we just got the bad luck of a shit reality.
Close to the supposed release date of 1981. So is it possible to find any earlier evidence? Anything at all? A throwaway mention, a forum post, or
Obedience to us is a super Mason tower full of weird occult shit. So the guy who moved stuff around like big sandstone blocks down in South Florida, apparently he said that Masons, like a very high level Mason, taught him how to do it, and he was a Mason, and this is like part of the knowledge that they have, right? I don't know how much knowledge or power the Masons have. it's weird. They're a very secretive organization, but I've met Masons, and they seem normal. They seem normal. They don't say weird stuff. They don't speak cryptically to me.
Magazine article. Now, rumor has it that the myth first...
Forrest Mommy says that collider shit ain't no joke. They fucking opened a portal to hell or something. Yeah, something, right? Aren't they planning on building a bigger one? Have you guys seen... So they have like a statue of Shiva there, and that's like the god of destruction for Indian people. And that just seems like a weird statue to have. Also, I've seen videos of like weird rituals going on at that super collider, and I don't know why you would do a ritual there. I don't know. That's weird too. A lot of weird stuff. Maybe it did collapse our universe, and then that's where we get like the Mandela effect from, and we don't remember things properly because we actually did live in another timeline. But since it collapsed that timeline, everyone from that timeline kind of just moved over, and we remember the original timeline, but this one's just pretty close, and so this is where we live now.
Emerged on Usenet, circa 1994. It's not as popular today, but Usenet was once the go-to place for news, discussion, and rumour. It's also fairly well preserved. Since 1995, Deja News has archived Usenet. And in 2001, they were acquired by Google.
Okay.
Today, Google Groups is the largest archive of Usenet posts, with the full Deja archive searchable, along with supplementary data that goes all the way back to 1981. Its search is imperfect, but with some patience, we might get some results. A broad search for Polybius pre-2000 turns up some predictable results. It is the name of a Greek historian, after all.
I have to find...
It is matters of history that most often come up, with the occasional reference to a Polybius cipher in cryptological talk. There's also a user named Polybius, who was quite active in Alt Mag Playboy between 1997 and 1998. Narrowing the search domain to known groups helps improve results. And one in particular is a nexus for arcade collectors. Rec Games Video Arcade Collecting. RGVAC for short.
What are those things called?
These guys are invested in arcade rarities. Because if something's rare, it's valuable. So Polybius would be right up their alley.
Alright, hold on.
Florida has all...
Hold on. I think we might
all
find
kinds of things going on. From the legend of the skunk ape to the dead zone and ghosts. Here are 10 of the creepiest myths and legends from Florida. Number 10. Legend of the skunk ape.
Martin Share says, I'm going to send you a new Sulk commercial. I think you'll like it. Almost done with it. Awesome.
A lot of people don't know that Florida actually has its very own Bigfoot. Only, it doesn't have a cool name like Sasquatch or Bigfoot. In Florida, they call their mysterious and elusive monster the skunk ape. And yes, that...
Background note says, some guy has 1 minute video on YouTube with the same gnome story, but the episode of the podcast is missing. What? It doesn't seem like, okay, it doesn't seem like this is coming out of nowhere, right? There's legitimate information about this little gremlin that happened in 1955. It got booked, right? It was taken to a police station, and it spoke English, apparently. And it was on the internet, but now it's not on the internet? What? Is this, like, are they scrubbing this thing? I don't know.
It's a pretty awful name for something that's supposed to be cool. However, this is Florida. Skunk ape sounds like this guy must smell terrible. Near Naples is the actual skunk ape research headquarters. Nearby are the Florida Everglades, where many people believe they've witnessed the skunk ape. According to Jack Sheely of the skunk ape headquarters, the skunk ape is the southernmost relative of Bigfoot, just like how the Yeti is the northernmost relative of Bigfoot. He also insists there are between 7 and 9 skunk apes currently living in the Florida Everglades. Whether there are really any Bigfoots in Florida is yet to be seen. It's hard to believe a Bigfoot could exist in the Canadian wilderness, never mind in the Florida.
Okay, so what that guy was doing Hey, Charlie Horse. What that guy was doing, wearing a Bigfoot outfit in the middle of the woods, is a stupid, stupid idea. Don't ever do that. That's retarded because you're gonna get shot. If I saw something like that out in the woods, I might shoot it. Just on the off chance it is a Bigfoot, right? And then it would probably 99% chance be a homeless guy. And then I'd be like, well, one less homeless guy. Don't do that. Don't wear Bigfoot outfits out in the woods because you'll get shot.
Everglades. However, the legend of the skunk ape does go back hundreds of years, all the way to the indigenous cultures. So who really knows? There's even some video footage, but as usual, it's pretty blurry. Until anyone actually manages to capture the skunk ape, it's going to remain a legend and myth, just like the Yeti and the Sasquatch. Number 9. The Devil's Chair. Apparently, if you sit in the devil's chair at midnight, the devil will talk to you. At least, that's the legend which surrounds the devil's chair in Florida. It's a massive stone chair in the Lake Helen Cemetery, 2 miles down the road from Casadaga. As far as the legend goes, you must sit in the chair at exactly midnight if you want the devil to come and talk to you.
No, I won't do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do that. Because there's a lot of weird haunted shit that goes on in Florida. And it's not just meth heads. Usually, it's not just meth heads. There's a lot of stuff in that swamp I wouldn't want to mess with. Also, the groundwater is somewhat radioactive. There's certain places in Florida that have like wells and like fountains and stuff like that, and there's little signs on it that says this water has radium in it, and it is radioactive. And if you drink it, you will be getting a small amount of radiation. And people drink it. They go and they drink it. It's like a tourist thing. And apparently it doesn't taste very good, but you can drink it. But there is a warning that it is radioactive.
This is obviously not going to happen. Otherwise, this weird red brick...
Forrest Mommy says, I'm cool. I'd rather talk to Jesus. Where's the Jesus chair? Is there a Jesus chair? Why do we have to talk to the devil? And there's got to be easier ways to talk to the devil.
Chair would be a serious sensation with scientists all over the world.
Taylor Swift does it. A lot of these people do it. There's a lot of Satanists on the planet, right? And I feel like they probably talk to Satan pretty regularly.
But it doesn't stop local people from propagating the legend. Some people say the rumor was started as a way to keep kids and vandals away from the graveyard, to stop them from vandalizing gravestones. Of course, that's ridiculous, and it would never work. Kids are too curious. If anything, it's only drawn more and more people into the cemetery to try...
And then teenagers bang in cemeteries, right? That's a thing? Teenagers bang in cemeteries? Like goth chicks? They're into that, right? You can't stop that.
Sitting in the chair to commune with the devil. The chair itself sits in the Thatcher plot and stands out quite visibly because of the lack of vegetation. It doesn't even look much like a chair and looks more like an old brick fireplace. If you're into legends and would like to convene with the devil, try it yourself the next time you're in Florida. Number 8. Count Karl von Kossel. One of the absolute creepiest Florida legends is about a man named Count Karl von Kossel, and believe me, this is one disturbing story. So far as it goes, he was a German man who in his youth regularly...
Forrest Mommy says, I keep thinking I'll find the devil at the bottom of an 8-ball bag, but he never comes around, so I keep looking in those bags. I should write a country song. That sounds exactly like the lyrics to a country song. And how do you keep affording these 8-balls? Those are expensive, and, you know... that much cocaine is going to take its toll.
Visited one of his dead ancestors. Apparently, this dead relative would show him the face of his one true love, an exotic brown-skinned woman with dark hair. And that's not even the creepiest part of the story. Fast forward to his adulthood, and Carl was working as a doctor in Key West, Florida. It was the 1930s, and one day at the hospital, a Cuban woman walked in. Carl recognized her immediately as the girl from his dead ancestor's visions. She had tuberculosis and soon died. She was only 22 at the time, and Carl, in his 50s, was distraught and in love with her. He made a death mask for her, and with permission from the woman's family, paid for the funeral and constructed an above-ground mausoleum for the woman. He even built her a special casket with an incubator tank inside of it to prevent decay. He visited the mausoleum every single night, but then things got stranger. He eventually stole her corpse, brought it home, and tried to revamp her body using piano wire, glass eyes, and silk cloth soaked in wax. He had to get rid of the maggots and use perfume to try and stop her from rotting. He then kept her body in his bed as if she were his living wife.
And plowed it and plowed that thing, right? Right? And then the maggots would come out, right? Because he pushed too hard. That's so he had a corpse. It's not, that's worse than the dolls, right? That's worse than the dolls because it's a corpse. It's somebody's body. You had no permission to take their body and then fuck it for the rest of whatever. Damn. That's a weird doctor. That's a weird doctor.
In the end, Carl was arrested and the woman was reburied in a secret cemetery, safe from his grasp. Number 7. Cryogenically frozen Walt Disney. The animation legend Walt Disney died on December 15th, 1966. He died from...
Forest Mommy says ew. Don't say ew. Don't kink shame people, Forest Mommy. Go back to your 8 balls of Coke and just, look for the devil.
Complications of lung cancer and was cremated.
We're over here revamping corpses and then plowing them. You think it was just vaginal? Or you think it was the whole thing? He opened the mouth and it's full of maggots and it's like that. But the eyes are glass. So they're going to stay clear. That is ghoulish.
Soon after, then interred at Forest Lawn Memorial Park in Glendale, Florida. This is all very normal. However, there have been crazy rumors ever since his death that Walt Disney actually cryogenically froze himself. According to Walt Disney's daughter, he absolutely did not. She even stated as much in a 1972 biography about her father. So how did this strange rumor of Disney's death become legend? According to PBS, a few weeks after the death of the cartoon mogul, a reporter for a tabloid newspaper claimed he had snuck into the hospital where Disney had passed, dressed up as an employee, snuck into a storage room, and saw him suspended in a cryogenic metal cylinder.
Yeah, because it's so easy to sneak into hospitals. Hospitals have tight security. Really, fairly good security. The last time I was in a hospital, you couldn't just walk in or out. You would get searched, and they would search you for firearms and stuff. And if you had a baby, they would put a thing on your wrist, right? And then put a thing on the baby's wrist. And so you all had to have matching bracelets so you would be sure you're taking the right baby out of the hospital. Because apparently people kidnap babies out of hospitals pretty regularly. There has been cases where people have walked into hospitals, just picked a baby up and then walked right out and then raised that baby. The baby not knowing that it was just kidnapped from a hospital. People are crazy, man.
Other tabloids claimed Disney was buried in a freezer in the Pirates of the Caribbean ride, but he's not. Disney was a science fiction fan, but there's no...
Chaos says when the maggots squirm, you come harder. What if you just come maggots, right? What if you come and then you come maggots? So they shoot out of the end of your dick. If you're dealing with satanic devil shit, that wouldn't surprise me, right? That would be probably the least of my surprises. And he's banging a corpse and stuff. You bang a corpse, you put your dick into it, and there's a bunch of maggots in it. Eventually, one's going to get shoved up your pee hole. And on the next round, it could shoot right back out. Right? It's like a grub. And then you just shoot it into Timon and Pumbaa's.
Real evidence to suggest he was frozen. However, rumors still persist to this day in Florida and California, and it seems that people would like to hold on to hope.
Background noise says the dead ones are too gassy. Well, okay. Suit yourself, right? Some people like the gas, some people don't.
That one day he'll come back to life. Number 6.
I'm
Space
background
Mountain
noise.
Decapitation.
I'm too
Disney
fancy
World
for
is
all
one
the
of Florida's
gases
most
that this
famous
corpse is
attractions,
making.
but it's steeped in urban legends.
The farts are the best part.
Even across the ocean, on other continents, and in other countries, people have heard about the legends of the decapitation at Space Mountain. It's such a powerful legend that it has spread to other cities and in...
You know what? Fuck the decapitation at Space Mountain. That's just a legend and stuff, but a little kid, a 3-year-old kid got eaten by an alligator at Disney World. And that's real. That is a real thing that happened. And it didn't happen even too long ago. And that's not That's not like an urban legend, even though I'm sure Disney would love to push that narrative where that's just an urban legend and, everything's fine. No, that happened. A bunch of people saw it happen. So people do die at Disney. They don't want you to think people die there because it's the happiest place on earth. But there was another instance that happened. I think it was at Walt Disney World, where a very obese man was carrying his infant son, a newborn, in a chest thing, like a chest carrier. And he slipped exiting a restaurant, fell face first onto the infant. And they rushed him off of Disney property before declaring the infant dead because they did not want the infant to be declared dead on Disney property. This is how fucking psycho these people are, right? They are like, Disney is Nazi. They are trying to like maintain a mirage, like an idea of perfection, and it's all fantasy there. Nobody ever gets hurt. Everybody's happy. No real life things happened at Disney. But they do. And they try desperately to cover them up.
Infected other amusement park rides. The legend goes that a guest stood up on the Space Mountain ride and got their head cut off clean. However,
Welcome.
and much to everyone's
Renee
disappointment,
says, "Hi, I've never been here before." Really? Oh, well, thanks for coming.
there was actually nobody beheaded on the Space Mountain ride ever. There have been accidents, of course, here and there, but nothing like that.
Obedience says, Timmy Dunn seen a kid get it last year at Polynesian in Disney. Ooh. How? Yeah, you don't hear about this stuff, and I'm sure Disney pays good money to keep this kind of shit hush-hush. Even though Florida has like sunshine laws, I bet there's teams dedicated to removing people from Disney property if they have like a heart attack or if somebody gets like stabbed or something like that, because people do get stabbed at Disney. Like, shit happens at Disney. It's a part of the real world, right? And real world things happen. We do get body cams from Disney sometimes, but I'm sure they really try hard to limit that. Disney World was like part of the CIA too. The reason Walt Disney got so much land in the middle of Florida, they're connected. The CIA and Disney are obviously connected. There's a connection, right? But when Walt Disney was buying all the land for Walt Disney World, he did it through like different contractors and through like shell companies, so nobody knew what he was doing. And he bought thousands of acres for pennies, like pennies on the dollar. And it was useless mud land. It was swamp land, so nobody wanted it. And then he was like, oh, I have it all, and now I'm going to build this. And there it is, right? Disney World is a weird place. I don't get Disney adults. I don't get adults that go to Disney without kids, and then they're like, yeah, we're at Disneyland. We're going to try a bunch of different foods, or we're going to, do weird adult things at Disney. I don't get it.
Claimed that Pirates of the Caribbean is haunted, but it's hard to tell while you're on the ride. It probably stems from the fact that there are real human remains mixed in with props. Not only are there human skeletons, but also people allegedly try to scatter their loved ones' ashes there.
Yes, that does happen, right? People do try to. So people like Disney, and a lot of times they want their ashes scattered at Disneyland. And so they look out for this, and they like search people to make sure they don't have ashes and stuff. I have heard that is real, right? They try to keep people from spreading people's ashes at Disneyland. And if you die and you're like, I want my ashes spread at Disneyland, what the fuck is wrong with you? First of all, you're an adult, hopefully. I mean, kids die, sure, but even if you're a kid, I'm not going to spread your ashes at Disneyland. That's crazy. That's a crazy thing to do. Disneyland, no. First of all, other people are trying to enjoy Disneyland, but it just seems weird. How many bodies are at Disneyland? Disney World. I don't know. They're real specific about what you call it here in Florida. Honey, how many bodies are at Disneyland? Shut up. She says shut up. I don't know.
Disney strictly forbids doing this.
What?
You said Disneyland on purpose.
What did I just fucking say? What did I just say? I just said people in Florida are really weird about calling it Disney World.
Because Disneyland's for faggots. Disney World.
Oh, Disney World's not for fags. Oh, I'm sorry.
Well,
Are my eyes not working whenever I go to Disney World and I see all the people working there? Disneyland is in Los Angeles, right? And Disney World is in Florida. There's no bodies in Disney World. Dead bodies.
Probably.
There's probably a bunch. Right?
Yeah.
The corpses of like all the kids they used in It's a Small World. Those used to be real kids.
Yeah.
You know that, right? Yeah. Huh?
What?
So if it has been done, no one is going to fess up. But with all of these rumors, maybe there's some truth to all of them. What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. And let me know if you'd like to see a video about Disney. Number 5, the Dead Zone. The Dead Zone is a small section of...
Renee says, my neighbor would be that person. They go like 8 times a year with their kids. I don't know how they afford it. Well, so Disney World does annual passes, but those annual passes are like $1,000, $2,000. They're not cheap. They're pretty expensive, right? And I don't know. I don't know why you would go to. We got an annual pass, right? Like my parents bought us an annual pass one time, like last year. We went once because it's just not our thing, right? It's just not. There's so much. There's better parks here, right? There's like Universal and stuff. I don't know. Disney people are weird. They're just strange people.
Interstate between Daytona and Orlando that is locally famous for the boggling amount of car crashes that have occurred there. It's an extremely short length of asphalt.
Obedience says Club 33 probably got some dead people. No, Club 33 has dead hookers, right? Not dead people. And yeah, it's probably got a bunch of dead hookers. Club 33 is like where they keep the coke. Like the cocaine. You're not allowed in Club 33. To get into Club 33, first of all, I think you have to know somebody. But after that, you have to pay an enormous sum of money just to enter. And then there's like fees on top of that. So Club 33 is for a very specific clientele, right? Most people here have never even heard of Club 33. But it's there on Main Street. It's above the firehouse, and you can see there's a window, and inside is apparently pretty ritzy.
Located inside Seminole County near the south end of the...
Random Meth says $500 to $1,700 for an annual pass. $500 seems cheap. You go to Disneyland once, it's like $300 per person. So $500 for an annual pass seems really cheap. Are you sure?
Interstate Bridge, and it's legendary for traffic accidents. Sources differ, but everyone can agree there are somewhere between 1,000 and 2,000 car crashes that have occurred at this location since the highway first opened in 1963.
I remember when I first moved to Florida, like I was driving down I-4, and I just saw a truck on fire. It was just completely engulfed in flames on the side of the road. And I was like, what the fuck? Because I don't see that. I didn't see that in California. I saw a lot of crazy shit in California, but I didn't see that. Also, the roads here are a lot better than California. California just has a bunch of potholes everywhere. And there's like no lines on the road. It's a free-for-all. But the roads here are really nice because they're toll roads, right? So mostly tourists pay for them.
Additionally, many of these accidents involved fatalities. Records show that in a single 2-year...
Brandon S says it's probably a student pass. You're probably right. Yeah, $500 for a student. Even then, that still seems pretty cheap. Yeah, Yeah, that still seems pretty cheap.
Period. From 1955 to 1957, there were 44 accidents and 65 motorists injured. And
okay, everybody, just for the new people who are coming in, hit the like button. But also, does anybody know about a Florida gremlin circa 1955 that was arrested, about 1 foot tall, English speaking and naked, that loves oranges? If you do, please send it my way. It seems like the internet is scrubbed of this information, but it is a real factoid. I don't know what to call it. It's a real story, and I would love to know more about it.
While the state officials blame traffic congestion for the unusually high number of accidents, other people
Horse says, "No, John, sorry, I'm from California."
blame the dead zone legend, which dates back prior to 1880.
Tejas says, "Wait, what? Say again?" I said it pretty clearly. A 1 foot tall, orange-eating gremlin that was arrested by Florida police and spoke English, completely naked, and disappeared from the jail. 1955. Apparently, there's something in Bach Tower describing the incident, and it's there, right? And I can't find anything online. We found things that have been removed from online about this creature, but a little humanoid, 1 foot tall man, I would assume, that escaped police custody after being booked for stealing oranges from a rancher. I have no more information.
When the area was nothing but wilderness. The legend claims that the interstate...
Obedient to Yas is the Lake Wells gnome. So it's the Lake Wells gnome. It's not like a chupacabra or anything like that. It is a English-speaking humanoid. And this, I mean, it's just, that's so Florida. That is just such a Florida thing. Like, I would expect that. I don't think it's a person, or it could be a person. It could be a tiny meth head. I don't know. Eating oranges? Just running around naked? All pissed off that he got arrested?
Paved over the graves of a pioneer family, and after construction was complete, the souls who had been trapped beneath the asphalt took to haunting the stretch of road, causing accident after accident. Number 4. The Ghost Dog. Here's a ghost story everyone can get behind. According to Florida local legends, there's a ghost dog wandering around Lake Eola in Orlando. The dog is supposedly a brown terrier, and it's known for spontaneously disappearing whenever you try to pay attention to it. So who is this dog, and why does he appear?
He's a good boy.
The legend says he was abandoned by his owners and now drifts through the ghost world trying to find someone who will take care of him.
Oh,
Yes,
that's fucking
it's
sad.
a little creepy. However,
can somebody please adopt this ghost dog? If it was a ghost dog, and like, I would adopt a ghost dog. God, that's a heartbreaking story, right? He got abandoned by his owners, and then he just roams the lake looking for somebody that cares about him. But when anybody walks up to him, he just disappears because he's like a memory. It's sad. That's a sad ghost dog. Come hither, ghost dog. I will be thine owner.
it's also a little touching. An extension of the legend claims that the little dog belonged to a young boy whose family had just moved to Orlando in the early 1900s. However, because no dogs were allowed in their housing complex, the boy's father put the dog in a bag and then drowned him in the lake. And this...
What the fuck? Put him in a bag and just hucks him into the lake? Like, not even... What the fuck? People actually did that back in the early 1900s, and they probably still do that today. But that is cold. That is like really heartless. And it's not a puppy, right? Because you can kind of, I mean, I don't want to say I understand if you do it to a puppy, but like sometimes a dog gets pregnant and you're like, I got to get rid of these puppies. You got to throw them into the river in a burlap bag. You know, we've all done it. But like an adult dog and your kid loves it. And, you know, it's like, oh, well, you know, the rent's $50 cheaper a month if we don't have a dog. So I'm just going to put you in this duffel bag and then huck you into the lake. And then your kid's like, wait, what?
This is why the dog continues to wander around the lake. He's looking for his lost owner. Now, I've heard a lot of ghost stories in my time, but this just might be the best one yet. What's more romantic than a young dog and his boy? Number 3. Magnolia
That's
Creek
a
Lake.
fucked up story. That's a terrible story.
The legend of Magnolia Creek Lake is a little bizarre. The lane itself is a narrow road only large enough for a single vehicle to drive down at one time. The legend says this small chunk of road, which is partially...
Charlie Horse says, my apartment complex thinks I have 1 cat. Joke's on them. I have 4. So your apartment complex, like the super for your apartment complex, comes and knocks on your door and been like, yo, so I was looking for the 3 cats you apparently should have thrown into the river, but they weren't there. Are they here? Because that's how you get rid of animals, right? You just put it into a bag and then you huck it into the lake. Into the lake, right? Where people like fish and like kids play and stuff. Oh yeah, if you're in Florida and like you're a small kid, you probably shouldn't play around lakes. And Disney World knows that now, right? After that happened, they went on a full-blown eradicating every alligator from inside the parks, because there's a lot of lakes inside Disney World. It's all connected with lakes, and they're big lakes, right? And so they went full bore and just eradicated every alligator inside the lakes. I don't know if they killed them or moved them outside the park or something like that, but then they put big gates up, and now they do regular checks for alligators. They also put up guardrails around all the lakes, which they should have done in the first place. That's what they should have done in the first place. But, hindsight is 2020.
Paved and leads through a small wooded area was the
really
location of a
fucked up
horrible...
shit, right, Forrest Mommy? People do, really, really fucked up shit. And, throwing a full-grown dog that your kid loved into a lake, probably with a collar on it and everything, that is cold. That's really cold. His dad was probably an alcoholic.
Train wreck that killed 200 passengers. And still to this day, it's claimed that those 200 passengers are haunting the road, which is apparently built over the railroad tracks. The big problem with this legend is that no railroad was ever built in the area. The only documented railroad was slightly north of the location, and nobody can find any proof of a train wreck ever occurring in the area. It's more likely that the legend has arisen due to ghostly noises coming from the forest. Magnolia Creek Lane is supposedly the location of horrible incidents from back in the 1890s.
Ghostly noises coming from the forest? I mean, yeah, I could believe that. In Florida, this is thick country, right? Back in California, you could walk through the woods for a while, and you could go explore the woods and be walking and stuff. In Florida, it's like a barrier. It's like, you know how you have invisible walls in video games? It's kind of like that. Unless you get a machete and start hacking into the jungle, you can't really go through it. I mean, but people do that. People have done that. But boy, that is dangerous. There's all kinds of snakes and gators and, I wouldn't do that.
And so people assume the woods are haunted. There are a lot of claims by people who say they heard horrible screaming coming from the woods at night, but the closer you get to the screams, the farther away they are. Some people even claim they've seen shadows of people walking on the road at night, but of course, it's really just a legend. Number 2, Oviedo Lights. Almost every Florida local knows the legend of the Oviedo Lights.
Oviedo. And Oviedo sucks.
Or at least, most people native to Central Florida. The Oviedo Lights are ghost lights that have haunted the region for at least 70 years. They're best seen on the road between Chuluota and Snow Hill, at the bridge that crosses the Econ-Lockhatchee River. Sometimes it's a single ball of light.
A lot of people have trouble pronouncing the names here in Florida, and I did too, right? I used to call it Kissimmee. It's Kissimmee, right? And it's Okalacha, right? And there's, you just have to get used to the names. They're all Native American. Oviedo. I don't know if Oviedo is Native American, but it's not Oviedo.
Light, and sometimes witnesses have reported seeing at least 5 balls of light. There have even been reports of the lights chasing cars.
Yeah, we have water moccasins, right? We have water moccasins in my yard. And yeah, they're extremely poisonous. And if you get bit by one, you're going to die. Yeah, but that's not even that's not the only snake. They also have giant pythons that will eat people. 20-foot pythons that people have released because they were pets. And they were like, I don't want this snake anymore. I'm just going to throw it in the swamp. It'll be fine there. And it is fine. And it's so fine that it reproduces and makes giant ones. And so there's gigantic like anacondas and like pythons that can eat people. I don't know if they have. They might have.
Chasing young kids back into their car.
But they do eat gators. There has been cases where people have opened up like a hunted python and there's been like a big gator inside of it.
As they scramble for their lives. Nobody knows what the lights really are.
Charlie Horse says, I want to see ghost lights. Come to Oviedo. I mean, Oviedo's like an hour from here. There's really not much to do in Oviedo. It's, you know.
If it's ghosts, swamp gas,
might as well be lights.
Some kind of scientific phenomena. In any case, trying to see the lights was a very popular pastime for teenagers between 1940 and 1970. And after 1970, the spot beneath the Snow Hill Road Bridge became a popular dating location where young teens would go to try and see the lights. But today, many people just blame it on swamp gas, also known as swamp ghost lights, will-o-wisps, and jack-o'-lanterns. This is something that happens when organic material disintegrates in the swampland and creates methane gas and phosphenes, which ignite to create a burst of light. Of course, it could also be a ghost trying to lure children into the swamp. Number 1. Pensacola Lighthouse. According to local legend, Florida is home to one of the most haunted lighthouses in the world.
There's a bunch of lighthouses in Florida, and they're actually pretty cool. There's one over here at Ponce and Pensacola, and there's one up in Augustine. They're really nice. You go and, you know, check them out. And yeah, the lighthouses are a cool feature about Florida, and they're all over the place.
Talking about the Pensacola Lighthouse, possibly the most famous haunted building in all of Florida. The Pensacola Lighthouse is a maritime museum, but you can actually take ghost tours to try and spot the ghosts yourself.
There's ghost tours all over the place. If you go to St. Augustine, there's a bunch of ghost tours and stuff. There's ghost tours all over the place.
Everyone claims the lighthouse is haunted.
And maybe it's because, you know, Florida's just a weird haunted ass state with, you know, like the ley lines and, you know, the Garden of Eden and the Ponce de Leon with the Fountain of Youth and stuff. People have been here forever. It's just a ghosty place. It's very ghosty.
During the tour, you're able to walk at night through the keepers' quarters where the lighthouse keepers used to live way back in the 1800s.
Mommy says they're really phallic. Yeah, lighthouses? Yeah, totally. It's a big penisy. It's very penisy.
1800s.
I don't like the term phallic. I think it's dirty and gross. I prefer the term penisy.
You can get to hunt the tower for spirits, where many people have reported seeing shadowy figures and hearing steps above them. If you're not a believer...
Boris Mommy would be thinking about penises.
Yes, of course, and 8 balls of Coke. 8 balls of Coke. Yeah.
Of ghosts, this place will still give you the creeps. Even the Travel Channel and the famous show Ghost Hunters on Sci-Fi have deemed the Pensacola Lighthouse legitimately haunted. There have been EVP recordings of spirits communicating, as well as many disturbing sightings of ghosts. But what else can you expect from one of the oldest lighthouses in the country? Do you believe in any of these legends? Tell me in the comments below, and thank you for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to subscribe and let me know what state you'd like to hear about next.
And now I'm a fan. Anyways, guys, let's get back. Thank you so much for watching tonight. I hope you learned something creepy about whatever, because we kind of jumped around. I got bored with Polybius, and so we jumped around to Florida mysteries. I'm gonna find out about that stupid gremlin. I want to know. I have to know. So if you guys have any information, if you come by anything, please send it to my Twitter, or, you know, put it in the chat here. If you don't follow me on Twitter, I'm at Incredibly Sulky. And yeah, follow me on Twitter. Hit the like button on your way out. I rated Mersh, so go hang out with Mersh for a while. Thank you so much for coming. I hope you guys have a fantastic evening. Come back tomorrow. We're going to do another Sulk stream. Be cool to yourselves. Be awesome. You know, drink lots of water. Get a good night's sleep. And take care of yourselves, because I care about you too. I'll see you guys tomorrow. I love you. Good night.
I'm an incredible soul, unhinged and enraged like a bulldog's fierce growl. I'm spitting fire, burning through these trees, questioning the world, unraveling conspiracies. Talking about Bigfoot, Loch Ness Monster 2, government lies. Traveling the madness with every word.